Everyone who arrived at Alcatraz knew its reputation. The prison stood on a rocky island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, surrounded by cold water, strong currents, and constant security. Officials believed the location itself made escape extremely unlikely. For the men held inside, daily life followed a strict routine. Every movement was monitored, every door was locked, and every decision was controlled by the prison schedule. Most inmates accepted that leaving the island without permission simply wasn't possible. But in 1962, 3 prisoners began looking at the prison differently. Instead of focusing on the bars in front of them, they focused on the walls around them. During months of careful observation, they noticed that the concrete behind the ventilation grills in their cells had weakened over time. It wasn't enough to escape immediately, but it offered a possibility. Using simple homemade tools, they quietly removed small pieces of concrete whenever they could. The work demanded patience. They had to avoid making noise, hide the dust, and make sure nothing looked different during inspections. Progress came a little at a time, but each night brought them closer to a hidden space behind their cells. Eventually, they were able to squeeze through the openings and enter a maintenance corridor that most prisoners never knew existed. While digging through the walls, they prepared for another challenge. Escaping the building would mean nothing if they couldn't leave the island. Since obtaining a real boat was impossible, they collected prison raincoats over several months and stitched them together into a homemade inflatable raft. They also made simple life vests using the same material. Every part of the raft had to remain hidden until the night they planned to leave. At the same time, they created dummy heads from soap, paper, paint, and real hair collected from the prison barbershop. Placed on their pillows beneath the blankets, the figures were convincing enough to pass a quick nighttime inspection. On the evening of June 11th, 1962, everything came together. The dummy heads stayed in the beds while the 3 men slipped through the openings behind their cells. They moved carefully through the maintenance passages, climbed upward, and reached the roof without alerting the guards. From there, they climbed down the outside of the building and carried the raft to the shoreline. Ahead of them was the bay. The water was cold, the currents were unpredictable, and the mainland seemed far away in the darkness. Even after months of planning, this remained the most uncertain part of the escape. They inflated the raft, stepped inside, and pushed away from the island, disappearing into the night. The following morning, the prison staff began their normal routine. At first, everything appeared unchanged. The prisoners seemed to be asleep in their beds, but when guards looked closer, they discovered the dummy heads and realized 3 inmates were missing. The escape immediately triggered a full search of the prison. Officers inspected every corridor, every cell, and every section of the building before turning their attention to the water surrounding the island. Search boats moved across the bay, while helicopters scanned from above, hoping to find the raft or any sign of the escapees. As investigators examined the prison, they uncovered the hidden openings behind the ventilation grills, the homemade tools, and the route the men had used to reach the roof. The investigation showed that the escape had not been a sudden decision. It had been planned carefully over many months, with each step depending on patience rather than speed. Search teams later recovered a few items believed to be connected to the escape, including part of a raincoat that may have come from the homemade raft. But no confirmed trace of the 3 men was ever found. Without physical evidence, investigators could not determine whether they reached the mainland or were overcome by the cold water and strong currents of the bay. The case remained open as reports and possible sightings continued to surface over the years. Some claimed the prisoners had survived and started new lives under different identities. Others believed they never made it across the water. None of these reports provided enough evidence to reach a final conclusion. As time passed, Alcatraz itself closed and later became a historic site visited by millions of people. Visitors now walk through the same cell blocks, see the ventilation grills, and follow the route believed to have been used during the escape. The physical evidence still shows how carefully the plan was carried out, but it does not answer the most important question. More than 60 years later, no official conclusion has settled what happened after the raft left the island. Whether the three men reached the mainland or disappeared in the bay remains unknown.